In this video, we're going to turn our attention to repairing fragmentation in our indexes on a table. Now, index fragmentation can be repaired by either rebuilding the index or just reorganizing the index. Now, indexes can be rebuilt or reorganized in two different ways. We can use graphical tools in SQL Server Management Studio, or we can use Transact SQL commands. And so the best way to understand this is to see it in action. So let's jump out into SQL Server Management Studio, and let's take a look at repairing index fragmentation. The code you're going to see here is out there in your working files folder for this chapter, and you will see it in a SQL script file entitled Repairing Index Fragmentation Example. So you can go look for that, and you don't have to type in all the stuff that you're going to see me input here. But the first thing we need to do for a particular table, say the Human Resources Employee table in our AdventureWorks 2012 database, is to check the amount of fragmentation that exists on the various indexes on that table. Remember our system view, our system function, whatever you want to call it, DMDB index physical stats. We talked about this earlier in the course. Well, I'm going to copy and paste an example of that into here. So let me copy and paste this. You don't want to see me try to type this one. And I'm going to make this go away just for a moment so we can see all of this. Notice we're selecting the index ID, the name, and our old friend average fragmentation in percent. And notice this is coming from our system view here, dynamic management view, DB index physical stats. Notice we're passing a database ID of AdventureWorks 2012, and then the object ID is the human resources.employee table. Human resources is the schema, employee is the table. Don't worry about the nulls you see here, the other syntax. You can go look this command up later and see more information. You can do a lot with it, but for now, I just want to show you how to go about checking your index fragmentation and then taking care of it. So we will execute this. Notice we're going to execute it against our database, and we'll execute it, and notice it returns information about these indexes. Notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 indexes on this table. And one of the indexes that we have, you'll notice, is called the national ID number, and that has 50% fragmentation. The employee login ID index has 66.6% fragmentation. So we've got some work to do. Now, when you look at this in your example, you may see different indexes here that need to be modified or reorganized or rebuilt. What I want to do here now is talk about this AK employee login ID. It's at 60% fragmentation. Well, we know from that we need to just rebuild that. And so let's just go through the process of rebuilding that one. Now I'm going to give us some room here, and we're just going to kick this off. We're going to do an alter index, and we're going to put the name of that index. It's AK underscore employee. It's not really case sensitive, but I like to match it. It's easier to keep up. And I'll do login ID. So we're going to alter the index, and there it is, and it's on human resources employee, and we're going to tell it to rebuild it. So we will execute this command just like that, and notice the command completed successfully. If we go back and take a look now, let's see if anything has happened. Notice we're now down to 33%. So we might want to do that again and continue to work with it. But that is what you would do in that instance. This one that's 50%, we could do the exact same thing. Let's just say, for example, that the primary key employee business entity ID had, say, 15%. How would we go about reorganizing that one? Well, let's take a look at a reorganize statement. We're going to do an alter index, PK underscore employee underscore business entity ID. Then we're going to tell it on, once again, human resources employee. And this time we're just going to say reorganize. And we could hit this, hit as a technical term for execute, and we just reorganize that. So it's very easy to do this. And then, of course, we can go back and check the status of these. Now, we can also do this with the graphical tools inside the SQL Server Management Studio. Notice we can expand the table out here. So I've expanded my database. I'll come down here in Human Resources Employee table right here. I can expand it. I can look at indexes right here, and I can come down to, for example, that employee login ID. So notice I can right click on this index and I can choose rebuild or reorganize, just that easy. And so I'll tell it to rebuild that one more time. And notice it's going to give me a rebuild indexes, a total fragmentation right here. I will click OK. Take it just a moment and let's just right click on this. And let's go back in to rebuild one more time and see if we've changed it. We still got 33. We got something else going on, but we won't worry about that right now. That is how you can take care of reorganizing and reindexing these out there totally graphically in the SQL Server Management Studio. Now, what most people do is they will check for fragmentation in like a database maintenance plan using the database maintenance wizard or setting up a plan from scratch, and they will just automatically rebuild and reorganize their indexes maybe every day, maybe every couple of days, whatever. You'll just have to play with it in your environment, learn the personality of how the fragmentation is going, and then periodically just go check them manually. That's a quick look at how we go about repairing our index fragmentation.